Hey, it's Michelle. How y'all doing today? Well, today I am going to be talking to you guys about something that just really kind of peeves me. I'm just going to be honest. Uh, actually, I was actually going to talk a little bit about my podcast title for today. I did a lot of work on it, so go check that out. The podcast we talk about people who refuse to change their mind even when you show them proof. And that's actually called comparative bias. And it's insidious because no matter what, people dig in. But instead, I kind of want to talk about this a little bit real quick. And happy Thursday, everybody. So, what I want to kind of talk about is how people nowadays, you can't tell them nothing. And I mean, I've actually, tried to refrain from that, especially when I am looking at someone that's like, you heard a headline at best and ran with it. But anyway, what I want to say is this: if you are a person who gets really excited about something new and you want to share it with the world, the first thing I'm going to ask you to do, please, I'm going to ask you to refrain from wanting to share it with everybody first and wanting everybody to agree with it. And then I want you to go and see how prevalent this new whatever you've discovered is. Because too many times there are people that they think, honey, they telling you something new and they are the last ones to get it. There is this fancy effect. It is called the Dunner, Lord, we call it DK, and it stands for people's names. I'll pull it up because I don't want to do it bad like that. But what it means is that people have a higher opinion of themselves than they should because in their own eyes they are the smartest thing. And there was this it wasn't a study as much as it was an observation of some things after Jeff Bezos. Yeah, that Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos came out and he said that some of the smartest people he's ever encountered all seem to have this one quality about them. And that quality is that they are always willing to challenge their own beliefs and their own thinking. And I love that. And so this litmus test, if you will, came out that if you suspect somebody is full of it, and they are either faking it or erroneously do think that they are smarter than you or other people in the room, ask them this. Ask them, when is the last time you changed your opinion? And if it take them a minute or they are like, change my opinion for what? Walk away. You can do it slow, fast, you can run, it don't matter. However you want to do it, that's what you do, boo-boo, because you are dealing with someone who is full of it. They are full of puffery. And it matters now. And why does it matter? It matters because anybody with a phone or a laptop can get on here and to the masses and they can spout whatever they want. And there are a lot of people who are really good at being very persuasive about things that are not right. And what we're all fighting against right now is that echo chamber, because all these algorithms are always watching what we do, and thus it continues to just feed you the same thing. And I mean, come on, even a little kid will get sick of chicken fingers if that's all you ever feed them. Don't at me if your kid is not tired of chicken fingers. But what I want to say is that with these quote unquote fake smart people, what they tend to do is they get very dogmatic, meaning that they have a passion and a fire, and they have an eloquence, a provocativeness of stirring up people to get you to consider something. And once you consider, then they go in for the kill. And this is another thing that I kind of want to say. I'm not going to stay on here long today, but what I also want to say is be careful of little micro contracts that you enter into with fake smart people, whether they're trained to do it or not. People realize that when they want to be persuasive, or they want to win you over, or they, I'm getting glare off of that, or they want to get you into their camp, what they do is they quickly get a lot of small yeses. There's this book called Cashvertising. It's getting a little dated. It is written in this century, so I'm not putting you on to a 20-plus-year-old book, but it's called Cashvertising. I'll drop the link in the show notes. And what he does is he systematically teaches people, would be salespeople, some of the secret beliefs, secret desires, and secret wants of people. And then he goes on to teach people how to start moving folks from where they are to where they want them to be, kind of like turning them into puppet masters. And one of the things he says, and this is not novel in his book, it's not, but one of the things he says is that you can get people to have many contracts of agreement with you by getting them to say yes. So if I do something like this, like, there are a lot of people out here who think they know more than they do, right? Even with you nodding your head, I am getting a mini yes out of you. That is how you can have somebody who is talking foolishness, and you leave the conversation and you're like, did I just agree with them, or did I just agree to do something? And the reason why I'm talking about this is because of the subtle influence that a lot of people have. And nowadays, we tend to shy away from the experts. If you notice, most people who a lot of people are following, they are not using titles like doctor, professor, expert, this, or even putting their title designations after their names. They're going with names like mine, Michelle. You know, yeah, I could put a lot of my titles in front or behind my name, but that's not where we are. And so a lot of people, so like think of it like this. Our grandparents or even parents from the 40s, the no, from the 20s up until like the 60s, early 60s, they believe, and I'm talking about birthdays, they believed in experts. That's why you had commercials like 4 out of 5 dentists agree to sell a product. Now, if you tell somebody 4 out of 5 dentists agree, they'll be like, so what? Nowadays, instead of trying to get that toothpaste sold by 4 out of 5 dentists, you know what you have to do? You have to say 4 out of every $5 made is going to be donated. Or you have to say this toothpaste is made with cruelty-free sourced materials and things, because now we don't care as much about experts as we do about the process. We love documentation. You can't just give me a, not me, I'm talking about us. You can't just give us a before or after now. That doesn't work. No, we want to go on the trip with you. We want to go to the grocery store. We want to see how you cook the food. We want to see a day in the life. We want to get ready with you. We want to go on the ride. We are all about the documenting and the process of something. And because of that, you're getting people who don't necessarily put themselves through the rigors of understanding things, but yet and still they are very influential in that they believe. Sometimes they believe it, and sometimes they're just good at faking it, but they believe what they're saying. If you just look, like, just do either a Google or a YouTube search for a lot of different conspiracy sites and things, they're so pervasive that they are now big players in politics and government, where we're actually seeing how they are infiltrating and that. And when you try to show somebody that this is not right, they'll be like, well, I know it's right. Well, how do you know it's right? Because I have 15 billion jillion sites that tell me it's right. And guess what? All of those sites, they don't realize that all those sites took one person's statement and just propagated it back out. And so, because they think of all this quality that's out there, I mean, quantity that's out there, that what they believe is quantity. And then they get hardy with you and like, you can't tell me nothing. I mean, they just go for it. And I'm like, okay. And so, going back to what Jeff Bezos said, and I'm not trying to hype him up or whatever, I'm just saying that that was a pretty cool insight. And what he said was that smart people are, they're willing to self-edit. They're willing to update, upgrade, change, and evolve. And thus, that's how, if you want to find out if somebody is faking it, they will say things like, "Well, I know," and they will just be like, period. I said what I said, that kind of thing. But then if you look at someone who is respectfully, when we say fearfully and wonderfully, respectfully, and with great appreciation and awe, working out what they believe, they're going to say things like, I think, or at this particular time, or I feel, or I can see, or something even more like this. Um, I hope that this pans out. And the reason why uh, that is such a big change is because it is a peep inside the flexibility or the rigidity of someone's ability to learn. And to learn means that we never land on just one spot. We never land on just one thing and say, this is it. This is it forevermore. Because truth and facts, they're always changing too. People don't realize it. The truths that we held in the 1500s, we don't hold in the 2100s, or the all of the 2000s, the 21st century. And that is because people were willing to evolve. But you got to be weary of folks who just stake their claim and like, this is it, nothing else. And they don't realize that all roads eventually lead a person to where they need to be. Now, I am not trying to harp on that. And I actually wanted to keep this light. And I'm like, why can't I keep this light? But, I do want to just impress upon all of us that we can all go and update the way we look at stuff. I this is what I really like. I like looking at our memory, kind of like a computer's memory. Not exactly the same, but I like the fact that I can increase the memory by putting in more slots. I can change out the memory by taking slots out and putting others in. And so I can be a person that is willing to hold two different opposing opinions about something, um, without exploding, because I can be exponential. And that is one of the things that is a hallmark of mastery that I'm trying to grasp right now. And that is, with true masters, you get to mastery once you realize that you got to do this every day, that you got to keep growing and keep practicing for the rest of your life. Most folks think when you get to be a master, you can just rest on your laurels. No, no. So even if masters are willing to say that each day I got to learn something new and I don't know everything, how much more should we? There's a book. I already told you about cash advertising, and there's this other book that I like. Now I'm gonna tell y'all, it was written like what, almost 80 years ago, and I still love it. And the title is so great. It is called How to Read a Book by Dr. Mortimer Adler, and I talk about it a lot on my podcast. I even had somebody write me and say, Michelle, you made that book sound so fun, and it is written by some starchy old guy. I was like, you better listen to that man. And so the person was like, nah, I'll just wait and let you tell me the stuff. But there is an area in there where it's in the section where he talks about how to spot persuasive writing. And he prefaces it by saying that just like the levels in learning, that is how you need to look at what is written. And let me just lay this out for you, because we can translate what he talked about with reading a book with what people are talking about in conversation. And that is, he says, as the freshman, you're seeing something for the first time. This is where you want to skim over everything and get the lay of the land of what's on the page. And then he says, once you've done that, then it's time for you to move to the next stage. And he said, this is the sophomore stage. He says, be careful, because a lot of people get to this stage and think that they know what they've read. And he says, no, the sophomore stage is the second glance, where you're getting a surface knowledge of what's there. It's where you first start. And I'm sorry, y'all, something is itching me. It's where you first start to integrate with what's written, where you actually start reading what's on the page. And therefore, it is sophomoric. It is surface knowledge. And then you go to the junior. The junior is where you start, maybe if you're this type of person, writing notes out on the side, margin, where you want to come back to something and really meditate on it. Or it's where you're highlighting and underlining things that are, coming out for you, where it is a call out of something like, I really like that. I want to dig deeper into that. And then after that, when you've gone through it on the junior level, the senior level is, by now you are familiar with the layout of the page of the information. You are familiar with a surface understanding because you've read it. Now you have some notes, call outs, highlights, and things that you want to look at. And then as this senior look, what you now do is you now start to look for what is the theme, what are the patterns, how is the writer setting you up to slam dunk something at the beginning or the end. Does the writer set up a proposition at the top and then systematically prove it? Or is it a big buildup, a crescendo? And that is how you can tell, what Dr. Mortimer Adler said, how to be persuasive. And I will tell you, a lot of times when you look at people, even when it's not scripted, these are the telltale signs of how they will approach a situation. Sometimes they'll just tell you up front, by the time I get through with you, this is what I'm gonna prove, or you're gonna see it my way after we have this conversation. Or sometimes they might casually bring you in, like the Spider King, um, one of the French kings of old, who would lay these intricate traps, and he would strategize and do stuff, and people would think he was getting at one thing, where he was playing 5 steps ahead of them. And the next thing I will say is this, like, when you're dealing with fakery, um, be willing to test it. Now, this is diabolical, and I don't do this, but have you ever had someone ask you something like, have you heard of so and so? Or have you read this book? Or have you done that? And because you're so caught up in it, now, no, I don't want to say it that way. Well, I'll say it that way because I don't want to presume this of anyone. But you just say, yeah, to keep it going, or to sound like you know what you're talking about. That's another blatant test of smart fakery, or faking smart. And a person is like, they've got your number now because they've made it up. That person or that book doesn't exist. And you've said, and you don't ever know when this is happening. Well, likewise, you can flip it, and you can do that with somebody that you suspect is just full of a lot of hot air. And that brings me to the next thing that I wanted to say. And I did say this in my podcast today. Y'all check it out. Thank you for going and checking out the podcast, by the way. I appreciate y'all. That one of the best things you can do for true influence, to truly be perceived as wise and smart, is for you to admit when you're wrong, or admit when you don't know what's going on. There are a lot of times I'm talking to somebody, and I started to notice this as I got a chance to talk to more people globally. Because I get asked all the time, have you read this book yet? Do you know this concept or whatever? And I'm like, no, enlighten me. And I've had a few times where somebody says, "Oh, I'll just try to see, what you would say. That don't matter, that's not real." And then I can see it in their eyes where it opens up, where they're like, okay, and they put down a little bit of defense, and we can really have a conversation. Now, I'll say that this is done a lot of times when I'm interacting with someone on a business level and stuff, because they're trying to test me out, especially if I'm the one training, teaching, or consulting with them. They want to know, does my teacher really know what she's talking about? And I don't have any problems with people doing that, because I have realized that the more you know, the more you don't know. And likewise, the more you don't know, the more you think you know. It's kind of like the little teenager who finally gets around their peers and they think, oh, we are revolutionary. We doing a doggone thing. And then they are dogmatic with everybody. And you need to do this. And you don't understand that. And times have changed. And like my mama used to say, baby, I've been where you gotta go. And but you get to the point where you're like, okay, that's just part of their life cycle. That's part of their growing. That's part of what they need to understand, to go through. And you let it pass. My mother used to say this. She has my mother's deceased, but she had 4 daughters, 2 sons, and the sons were on the end. And she said that when her daughters turned 12, they believed that she was the most ignorant person around. She says, but somewhere around 23 to 25, she became the most brilliant person in their lives. And I was like, Mom, that's not true. But then I had to agree, it was true. And each one of us, I don't know what it is about that, those formative 12 to 14 years or so, where you go into adolescent puberty and then into new adulthood, that you get all of this pompousness about yourself. But the saddest part is when you don't get over it. And then you get what my grandma used to call old fools, who I know everything just because they experienced one thing, and it could have been 40 years ago, and don't realize that times change. The pendulum is always swinging from both sides and in between. And that just because you knew something at one moment in time does not make it true, does not make it so. And so being flexible, understanding that there is always another secret, understanding that there is always something more, and that you might be talking to somebody who knows way more than you. I'll just say it like this: to be on the safe side, always give people the benefit of the doubt that they know more than you until they prove that they don't. How about that? And that way it keeps you respectable. It keeps you humble, and it keeps you uh, authentic. And so that's what I wanted to say today, because I'm just really I'm kind of fed up with this faking it kind of stuff. Just fess up. If you don't know, it's okay. And that makes us like you more, because you really do only have to be just one step ahead of somebody to show them the way. You really do. That's all you got to do. When you agree with that right now, we don't need to have a lot of people knowing everything. No, we just need you to have gone, and you can run back and tell me what's going on. And then, we can keep it like that. I don't need you to be perfect. I need you to be honest and real. So I'm done with my rant. You guys, thank you so much for starting to watch these lives and hang out with me. I really appreciate it. I'll be honest with you, I was scared. I was like, they're gonna hate me because I'm not interesting. But I have I have a desire to share this kind of stuff. And even if I continue to just have my small few that rock with me every day, thank you. I see you. I see you. Thank you. It's okay, because I'm being authentic, and I'm putting out there what hopefully becomes part of the legacy that I leave when I'm no longer here. So thank you so much for supporting me, for joining me each day, for watching afterwards. Thank you for those people who are liking, subscribing, commenting, and that kind of thing. And also, let me ask you this. If you would like, because I tend to not talk about book writing and stuff, but I have been asked by quite a few people to revisit how to write a book. And so I'm putting something together now. If you would like for me to do a little series on here on this channel about book writing, book marketing, book selling, and I do fiction, y'all. I'm a fiction girl. Let me know. Send me something. I'll try to figure out how to do a survey on here. I don't know if it'll get answered, but I'll try to do one too. So with that being said, I'm going to see y'all later. Thank you so much for joining me. As you can tell, well, no, you can't probably tell, but it's real dreary outside and rainy and cold. So I am going to go get some tea and settle in and get to writing on my book that I am trying to make sure I get out before the end of the year. All right. So I'll see y'all later. Bye. Now I said that and I never know how to close this thing. Bye, y'all.